The Pittsburgh Steelers essentially conceded the AFC North yesterday with a loss in Baltimore. Joey Porter Jr. adds his name to a list of injuries in the Steelers secondary, and the Steelers certainly didn't have the best running back on the field yesterday with Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren as Derrick Henry ran wild. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more on today's episode of Steelers Digest, but first and foremost, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Most, if not all of you, are not yet subscribed to the channel, and you should be because we have the latest news on your Pittsburgh Steelers, regardless of the outcome of the games. We're still coming to you live the very next day, talking about what went wrong or what went right. In this case, what went wrong. Obviously, this one hurt, fellas. My expectations going into this game were let's win the AFC North. Let's beat Baltimore in Baltimore. Had won 8 of the last 9 meetings, and that just was not the case yesterday. That was a hard one to watch, a hard pill to swallow, losing to the Ravens on their home turf. But let's just dive right in. I mean, we got to talk about it sometime, so we might as well just talk about it now, get it over with, and move on to the next one. First order of business is injuries to the secondary being too much to overcome for Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. It was a rough day for injuries. The Steelers were already missing Deshaun Elliott, their best tackling safety, which actually made a significant impact on the game. They were also missing Dante Jackson, a corner that's very important to the team. And then to make matters worse, Joey Porter Jr. got injured in that game against the Ravens. He returned briefly, but he wasn't himself, and Mike Tomlin decided, Joey Porter, you got to sit the rest of the game, and the Ravens continued to piece up the Steelers secondary. Let's take a look at a quote from Mike Tomlin about the injuries that were suffered yesterday. Joey Porter had a knee injury, didn't have a lot of details there. He wasn't able to finish, and Ben Skowronek had a hip injury. He wasn't able to finish as well. I'm sure I'll meet with you guys tomorrow, and we'll have some more details about some of that. That was Tomlin's quote after the game yesterday about the injuries to Joey Porter and Ben Skowronek. Joey Porter Jr., obviously a number one corner on the Pittsburgh Steelers, very important player for them. They were already without Dante Jackson, and not having Jackson was obviously a big loss for the Steelers. It really impacted the game, and then losing Porter on top of that meant that Trice and Pierre had to play corner for the Steelers. And I will tell you right now, Lamar Jackson abused Trice the entire game. Every chance he got, he exploited that matchup and utilized his best receiver, Zay Flowers, in most instances, but he also got to utilize Rashad Bateman, who has been hot as of late. And then Mark Andrews being wide open in the end zone at one point. I can't even offer any explanation for that, but the Steelers secondary was in shambles without Elliott, Jackson, and Joey Porter. Not to mention they were missing Larry Ogunjobi up front, one of their better run stoppers. Cam Hayward, Keanu Benton couldn't really have an answer for Derrick Henry, but that's going to be our next topic after we talk about what went wrong with injuries. So just knowing that the Steelers were coming into this game banged up, I already had my doubts, but then Joey Porter going down really impacted the game. I'm dead serious. I mean, if Joey Porter Jr. would have been in that game for the entirety, and if Dante Jackson and Deshaun Elliott would have been in there, I think we have a different game on our hands. I'm not saying the Steelers would have won, but I'm saying it would have been a lot more competitive if we had our secondary, because that is the main thing that went wrong yesterday was Lamar being able to exploit our secondary. And people will say, you know, Russell Wilson should have played better. Yes, he should have. He turned the ball over multiple times in instances where you can't. He owned up to it. He admitted that it was his fault. But even if Russell Wilson played lights out yesterday, the Steelers would have lost that game because they could not stop the pass, and more importantly, they could not stop the run, and even more specifically, they could not stop Derrick Henry. Just another Derrick Henry masterclass for Baltimore, one of the greatest free agent signings I think I've ever seen in my life. The Steelers have Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, but they, as I said in the open, were not the best running backs on the field yesterday. Derrick Henry took over the game, had one of his best games of the entire season, and that's to be expected with Derrick Henry at this point. He is the second best running back in the NFL next to Saquon Barkley, and it just sucks that the Steelers had to play Barkley and Henry back-to-back here in December football when it really matters and when it really counted, and obviously Derrick Henry got the best of the Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday. Let's see what Mike Tomlin had to say. We didn't do what we needed to do to secure victory today, and so I congratulate the Ravens on their performance in the victory. Really specifically, we didn't control the run game. We never did, and when you don't, man, You got to do some splash plays or win the turnover battle in a significant way, and we didn't do that either. You got to control the run, the line of scrimmage. The turnover game is always significant in matchups like this, but we failed in both areas, and when you do that, you should expect to lose, and that was my expectation after watching what I watched yesterday. The Steelers definitely deserve to lose the game, but Derrick Henry deserves a ton of credit as well. The guy had a dominant performance. He had 162 yards, averaging over almost 7 yards per carry. It was a masterclass by one of the best running backs in NFL history. For my money, Derrick Henry is the best running back of our generation. He just takes tacklers with him and doesn't look back. I mean, the missed tackles by the Steelers were definitely a concern, but when you're playing against Derrick Henry, there's a different strategy to tackling. You can't go high on him or he's going to truck you. You can't try to go around the waist on him or he's going to stiff arm you. You got to grab him by the feet and you got to drag him down by the feet and the ankles, and you got to drag him down. That's about the only way you can get Derrick Henry on the ground. And he'll break those too every once in a while. But you have to try those conservative tackles. And I saw Joey Porter step in and make a really key tackle in that game, not against Derrick Henry, but it was a good tackle nevertheless to prevent a big play from happening. Joey Porter returned to the game briefly for the Steelers before he left and never came back. But it's the tackling. It really is. You got to be able to bring down Derrick Henry. The Steelers did a really good job containing him and Lamar the first matchup this season, but yesterday was a completely different story. The script was a lot different in that second matchup. Baltimore had a ridiculous game plan ready to go, and they executed it to perfection. Let's take a look at the actual breakdown of the matchup yesterday. 34-17, Ravens are victorious. As you can see from the yardage, a passing standpoint, it was actually pretty even. Russell did play well for the most part, aside from the turnovers. And Lamar really wasn't that much of a factor because half the drives, they ran Derrick Henry almost every play. There was maybe one or two passing plays on most of the successful scoring drives by the Ravens. They just kept feeding Derrick Henry, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They kept giving that guy the ball, and the freight train ran over the Steelers' defense time and time again. He just never stopped his feet. He kept moving, breaking tackles, big gain after big gain, especially on first down. Derrick Henry was an absolute force yesterday, and the Steelers had no answers. So, like Mike Tomlin said, if you can't stop the run, you can't win the turnover battle, you can't expect to win the game, and that's what happened yesterday. And to put salt in the wound, the Steelers secondary being banged up, like I said, first and foremost, the Steelers weren't able to stop the pass game either. So not able to stop the pass, not able to stop the run, and not able to win the turnover battle, you are going to lose the game. The one spark they did have at one point was when Minkah Fitzpatrick got his first interception since 2022. That was a huge moment for the Steelers. They were within a score, and here I am thinking, we actually have a chance to win this game as bad as we have been. Well, that was short-lived, and Russell Wilson threw a pick six to Marlon Humphrey, and that was the end of the story. So it was a very depressing game to watch, let alone talk about after the fact. I mean, I don't really see many positives we can take from that game. I'll be completely honest. I don't think there's one positive I can even tell you from that game that we can rest our morals on and move into the next week against the Kansas City Chiefs. We got to turn around and play another game on Wednesday, guys. It's Sunday the 22nd. We play the Chiefs on Christmas Day. Wednesday, the 25th, we play Kansas City Chiefs, and we just lost to Baltimore. Now, the division, we have the same record as the Ravens, both 10-5 with 2 games remaining. We play the Chiefs and the Bengals. We controlled our own destiny, and we failed miserably. Being completely honest with you, the way this team has played without George Pickens, Ben Skowronek was arguably the best receiver yesterday, and then he got hurt. And then Mike Williams had maybe 1 or 2 moments where I was like, okay, Mike Williams, running this nice crossing route, making a nice catch, little break tackle, rack after the catch, but no. Just not. A lot of mistakes. And a lot of holes in that defense. Too many guys out. Porter, Jackson, Elliott, Ogunjobi, and then obviously George Pickens being a huge one on offense. Our offense went from being one of the better offenses in the league to being one of the worst without George Pickens, and now our defense looks like Swiss cheese. So the last 3 or 4 games, our defense was not the same as it was in the first 10. And it's been a significant difference. Obviously a level up in competition as well. And that Bengals game didn't help matters, inflating all the numbers, but that was just as bad yesterday. I mean, the Ravens put up 34. That doesn't happen in the Ravens-Steelers rivalry. So that was arguably the worst game I've seen the Steelers play against the Ravens probably my whole life. So it's a hard pill to swallow. It's a tough one. And all we can do is continue to have hope. It's my job to be a realist and tell you how it is, and that's what I'm doing. I'm telling you the path to winning the AFC North. It might be simple. Win out and you get the division, but playing against the Chiefs and the Bengals is no easy task. The way the Chiefs have been playing, they've lost one game all season. So Christmas Day, we'll see, but a quick turnaround after a bashing like that yesterday in Baltimore, it's going to be a tough road for the Steelers. But nevertheless, thank you guys for watching this episode of Steelers Digest. At least I have Penn State to work with. Obviously, they got a big win against SMU yesterday. I got to rep my Penn State Nittany Lions. The one positive I could take from yesterday is the Steelers and Penguins both got blown out. So thank you guys for watching this episode of Steelers Digest. Obviously, we'll continue to provide injury updates as the week goes on because that is really the biggest storyline on defense is missing a lot of key players. So we'll give you an update here in the next few days and then a preview of the Kansas City Chiefs game on Wednesday, Christmas Day matchup, and then the Ravens will go head-to-head with the Houston Texans right after. It should be an interesting remainder of the weekend, watching a lot of football today, and then we get some Steelers football on Christmas. Whether or not that is a blessing or a curse, we will see. But thank you guys for watching Steelers Digest. My name is Remington Kuhn. If you haven't already, hit the sub button, and we'll have more content as the week goes on, leading up to Chiefs-Steelers, a marquee matchup on Christmas Day. Again, thank you guys for watching, and have a great, happy holiday.